Hello, everybody. I'm here with Harry Miller of Fair Cop. I've wanted to speak to him for a while about various things, but it kind of recently became, I think it's fair to say, a little bit frenetic in the Fair Cop world. So I thought this was a perfect time to do it. I'm not doing my usual introduction because I can't do them. I'm not a TV presenter. I cannot do introductions. It takes me about 20 goes, and the interviewee loses all respect for me in the meantime, you know, if they started with any. Harry, you know, first of all, can I ask, what is the status of Fair Cop at the moment?
So we've gone from a standing start to 15,500 followers. We've got influence in government. We've got influence in the courts, obviously. We've got two very active cases. There's my case going against the College of Policing in March, which will be heard at the Court of Appeal. Now, we'd hoped to leapfrog the Court of Appeal and go direct to the Supreme Court, but the Lord Justices have decided that it's more appropriate to send it back to the Court of Appeal. So we've got that. I think that's March the 9th and 10th. Mm-hmm. And then Sarah Phillimore, an absolute stalwart of Fair Cop. She's launched a Fair Cop action against the College of Policing, basically referencing Article 8 of the ECHR, whereas mine was an Article 10 free speech thing. So hers is about the right to private life and the right not to be recorded, or simply recorded, as Mr. Justice Knowles referred to it. Mr. Justice Knowles thought there was no problem at all with the act of simply recording a hate incident. But with respect to him, I think he got a lot of things right, but I think he got that very, very wrong, because to know that your name is recorded on a police database, and it's recorded on a database marked crime, and not just any old crime, but hate crime, and you're marked down as the suspect in a hate offence with your names all there, and that stays on there for, I think, 5 or 6 years, and then it begins to get an annual review, and it can appear at any time on an enhanced DBS check, and that's down to the whim of the Chief Constable. But we suggest that is not simply a mere recording, but that is a very toxic recording and has become actually an end in itself, because the fact that you are likely to get your name recorded on a police hate database is punishment enough for most people. That would generate the chilling effects, which would be enough to put most people, most reasonable people, off saying or doing whatever it was they were thinking of saying or doing, which is why I think there's a disproportionate sense of responsibility on those of us who are not reasonable to push ahead and challenge. I mean, that's me. You're not reasonable, Graham. I'm not reasonable. Sarah's legendarily not reasonable. But it takes that kind of bull-headed person. I remember a year or so ago, my local radio station saying to me, "Harry, why don't you just be like a normal person and take it on the chin?" And I said, well, one, I think it's a ridiculous suggestion that normal people should take it on the chin from the police. It's not the police's job to go around chinning people for things they've thought or said. And I'm just not that sort of person. I'm just not the sort of person who, you know, I've always said I'm a really shit fist fighter, but I'm an enthusiastic one. I'm likely to wade into a fist fight and get my ass well and truly whooped. But I'll always have a go, mate. I shall always have a go.
Okay. I realise that seemed like kind of an odd question to start off with, but there have been a number of controversies recently with Fair Cop. I've noticed that people, when they want to attack you and Fair Cop, they usually do so from a position of saying that you're aligned with the right and stuff like that. And I know you have a lot of thoughts about that. I read your recent piece, but I'd like to just go back in time a little bit. Can you tell us, first of all, how long were you with the police yourself, and what was your role in the police?
Oh, I was in the police for a couple of years. That's all way back in the early 1990s. I think I'd worked out that unless I could be the boss, I wasn't going to make a particularly great foot soldier. I enjoyed all the sort of Sweeney stuff. I enjoyed all the scrapping and chasing, and I enjoyed the interviewing and stuff like that. But I absolutely loathed and detested paperwork and procedures and having an entire pyramid of people above me. It didn't suit. Plus, I wanted to make some money, quite frankly. I enjoyed having weekends off. It just didn't really suit somebody. If they could have parachuted me in at chief constable level, I think I'd have made a very, very good chief constable.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I'm not a particularly effective or good police officer.
I don't think I'd be very good either. I think I'd be a good cop, and I think you'd be a good bad cop. And then when you left the room, I'd go, I don't think he likes you.
I think we work very well together, actually, you and I, Glenn.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
cop, good cop,
Definitely.
bad cop. Yeah.
But in your time with the police, presumably you developed a kind of a feeling for your fellow officers and so on. Do you think at the moment that the kind of rank and file are happy with the current way they're being asked to police?
No, absolutely not. Fair Cop has got a lot of support amongst police officers, a lot of rank and file officers, because we're speaking out and saying the things that they think. We've got moles in a number of police forces who give us the heads up about the latest lunacy that's been published in the name of woke. And more often than not, you discover that it will typically have as the headline author a superintendent, but then there'll be another name next to them. And you'll go, well, who's that? And the police will go, well, we've never heard of them. So you do a little bit of the old googly searchy thing, and lo and behold, it'll be somebody from Stonewall. So very often it's Stonewall writing these documentation. And the problem with that is that Stonewall is an overtly political organization. Now, the police deny that Stonewall is political because they say they can't be political because they're a charity. Well, you can be political if you're a charity. All the charitable status means is that you have to limit your political activity within the sphere of your charitable status. But it doesn't make you not political. And the standard set by the Code of Ethics to every police officer is A, do not get engaged in politics, but B, do not even look like you are engaged in politics. So it's a straw man argument for the police to say, well, Stonewall's not political, because our argument is, well, one, it is, and two, it doesn't matter if it isn't, because it looks political. And if it looks political, it's your job to step right away.
Right. Funnily enough as well, it's not only political, as we both know, it's religious in nature. Because the thing that policemen are enforcing is the idea that it's possible for a kind of soul to be born in the wrong body, and that there's like female souls in male bodies and male souls in female bodies. And it's just something that the vast majority of people in this country do not believe. And yet the police are policing this.
Well, yeah, for a so-called progressive police force, it's an incredibly regressive theology, isn't it? The idea that a soul can be born in the wrong body. I mean, that means, A, I've got to believe in a soul that's separate from the body. Two, I've got to believe in a sexed soul that somehow is different from the sex of the body. I mean, there are too many. The problem is the police have become priests in actual fact. They are taking on the role of priests, and it's not their job to.
Yeah.
But when you look at the police definition of hate, which includes unfriendliness and dislike, well, I'm sorry, but things like unfriendliness and dislike, that's the purview of priests. It's not within the jurisdiction of the police. Now, unfortunately, when you confuse the police with priests, you end up with a uniformed inquisition, and that's what we have right now. We have a uniformed inquisition that's being led by the Grand Masters of Stonewall, and the police are wandering around seeking whom they may devour. Anybody who doesn't think right, who doesn't speak right, who uses the wrong pronouns, who holds the wrong opinion, they're collecting us all up and they're putting us on this hate database in the event that they can't actually prosecute us. It's a terrifying thing, Graham.
They're putting us on a little list. It's really good to know.
Yeah, they've got a little list. Yeah, they've got a little list. I'm on the naughty list. I'm on the hate list. I mean, what was really great after our infamous hashtag, which no doubt we will come on to later, but that's what was his name? The fox bashing, kimono wearing lunatic QC.
Be careful not to say his name, or he'll try and get this taken down.
Well, there are many kimono wearing, fox bashing QCs, aren't there? So
Could be anyone.
But the fact of the matter is, he upgraded Fair Cop from a regular common or garden vanilla hate group to a terrorist organisation.
Yes.
That's what he said. He said we were a terrorist organisation. I'll be honest, Graham, that kind of thing doesn't faze me. I laughed my tits off at that and thought, great, I finally made it.
Yeah, it's quite the turnaround for former policemen to join a terrorist organisation.
It is right up there with Al Qaeda and all the rest of it. So, yeah, it's great.
Okay, now you touched on hate there as a thing, and it does lead me on to maybe the first bit of pushback, I guess, that I'd like to bring up. Let's talk about the hashtag, okay? Because the recent controversy that you got into, actually, let me go back a little bit. I'll give you a brief potted history of my relationship with Fair Cop. In the early days of this, I joined Fair Cop and I put my name and face on the website, and I was delighted to do so, you know. But I began to get a little bit nervous about a couple of things. I wasn't entirely happy with the tone of the Fair Cop Twitter feed. I found it a bit too jocular and a bit too, you know, it didn't have that kind of neutrality that I would look for from an organization, right? But after a while, I just thought, fuck all that. I don't care. Because basically, you know, you were doing such important work. The reason I was interested in you in the first place was because the police targeted me under the orders of Stephanie Hayden and Adrian Harrop. They were basically just outsourcing their harassment campaign to the police. And so I wanted to stop that. And I don't care how we stop it. I just completely 100% agree with your aims. But the hashtag that you recently did, Say Yes to Hate, it did bring me back to those old days where I kind of went, oh, you know. Okay, first of all, can you tell me where the hashtag came from? What was the thinking behind it?
You've got to set it in context. Mm-hmm. And the context was, it was Transgender Day of Remembrance. Now, one, I think the whole
which one, Harry?
Yeah, exactly. Which one is the latest one? You know, the latest one. So one, I think the entire
for the zero people killed, for the zero trans people killed in Scotland.
Exactly. Well, I think it's ridiculous, but you know, if Stonewall and Pride and mermaids and all that, if they want to have a Transgender Day of Remembrance, that is entirely a matter for them. Good luck to them. My problem is when the police embrace it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the police, they do their biannual embracing of the multiple transgender days of remembrance or whatever there are. We just come out of Trans Bloody Awareness Week, which I think preceded Rainbow Laces Week, which is just a few weeks after, you know, Gay Uncle Day or what. There is actually a Gay Uncle Day. It's quite incredible. I've got the entire Stonewall calendar, and it's an endless carnival.
Will you send that to me? I've got to put that up. That's very funny. Yeah, it's true. There's more transgender days of awareness than there are transgender days of not awareness.
Absolutely, there's more transgender days of awareness than there are people. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. So the police, on the back of this Transgender Day of Remembrance, and let's just think about it. You know, we just had an actual Day of Remembrance a few weeks ago, an actual Day of Remembrance where we're remembering several million people who have died. Yeah. Okay, over numerous wars. Right. So one, I think it's quite inappropriate for them to be co-opting a Day of Remembrance, which has all the connotations of an actual Day of Remembrance where actual people were killed in their hundreds of thousands. And then to co-opt that and have a Day of Remembrance for, in the UK, 9 trans people killed in 9 years. One a year, Graham. Well,
weren't there 7 women killed a week when the lockdown started? Weren't there 7?
I think there wasn't, but I know the facts are there are 2 women a week killed, week upon week upon week in the UK. And this is a number that's replicated the world over. In some places, way more than 2 a week. Mm. So it's just so unfair and so wrong that the police would present this to the world as though trans lives are at unique and mortal danger.
Yes.
And when they present that, I think they said that a recent survey said that 40% of trans people have suffered a hate crime. It's a lie. It's a simple lie. You go on the government website, there were approximately 2,500 trans hate crimes in the year 2018. All right. Now, there is somewhere between 200,000 and 500,000 trans people. Well, that ain't 40%. 2,500 hate crimes, trans hate crimes, is not 40% if there are between 200 and 500,000 trans people in the UK.
Yeah.
It's not a statistic that they've got wrong. It's a complete and utter lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie. Now then, on the back of that, on the back of all that, they put up a big thing that says, say no to hate. And then they give us this anonymous portal called True Vision. If you look at the True Vision website, it's got a great big eye there. It's full on Orwellian.
Okay, I'm going to look at this as you're telling me.
Yeah. So on the back of Transgender Day of Remembrance, and on the back of 40% of trans people suffering a hate crime, the police then say, report hate, say no to hate.
Yeah.
Well, you just have to go, well, hold on a minute. One, your facts and figures are all entirely wrong. Now then, let's just have a little look at what you're calling hate. And you look at their definition, and their definition of hate includes unfriendliness, dislike, antagonism. Well, I'm sorry, but we have every right to be unfriendly. We have every right to dislike, and we have absolutely every right to be antagonistic, because antagonistic just means hostile to a view. Yeah. Well, of course we're allowed to be hostile to a view. It also includes ill will. Well, unless you're going to act out your ill will towards somebody, what the hell has that got to do with the police? Ill feeling. So what? Spite. It says spite.
It says spite.
So spite is part of the definition of hate. Okay, so spite can involve a degree of hostility, but it generally means growing your ley landi really, really tall to piss off your neighbours. It's not Stephen Lawrence stabbing level, is it? It's painting your house pink to piss off your neighbours. It's sort of selling the house or selling the dog or whatever. It's not, again, it's not stuff that should be in the purview of the police. So when the police are saying, say no to hate, report all this horrible hate, the only sensible response that I can think of is say, screw you, we say yes to hate. And I'm going to keep saying, say yes to hate until you change your definition of hate to something that we can all get on board with. Because the definition that you're using is absolute nonsense.
Okay, now that was really clear, and I agree 100%. Yeah. But there is a but, I'm afraid. But the thing is, you must know, you do know that context just disappears. And as you and I know, we on this side of the debate, they find a crack and they wrench it open as much as they can. Excuse me for the image.
That's beautiful.
They try and find something that they can use to, hey, look, we told you, these people are hateful, these people are fascists, these people are X, Y, and Z. We told you, look, say yes to hate, And your explanation that you just gave there, no one sees it. No one sees it. They only see the word say yes to hate. This leads me to another thing, which is Twitter itself as a tool is so bad because everything that I did on Twitter is screenshot and taken out of context and moved around. And I was as careful as I could be. I'm not like you, Harry. I was trying to be a good boy most of the time, In the end, I just got sick of the fucking endless days of whatever. So I said men aren't women, though, and that got me banned. But as the leader of a group that is getting all these achievements, do you not think it's an idea to couch your words more carefully when it comes to things like tweets, things like hashtags?
How far has that gotten us, being careful?
I agree that there are people out there who are too careful, okay? But do you think you might be kind of sometimes going the other way and perhaps...
No, I don't, because what have I said yes to? What it's done, we're forced to ask the question, what did Harry Miller say yes to? Did he say yes to the kind of hatred?
No, Harry. They don't. They just say he said yes to hate because he wrote it down.
And I will stand in front of the High Court judge or the Supreme Court, and I will say yes to. I say yes to hate because I will present them with the definition of hate that the police say no to, and I will say which of these elements of the definition do you think a common or garden person does not have the right to hold?
But Harry, you are talking about a thing that will either not happen or if it does happen, it'll happen out of the view of all the people who saw the words "Say Yes to Hate." Do you know what I mean? All I'm saying is, this, as I say, in the early days, I left Fair Cop because I just thought the tone of the Twitter feed was too personal, wasn't organizational enough. If that makes sense.
It took a while for us to find our voice, Graham. That's true. In the early days, I don't think any of us knew what we were doing. That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah. But all I'm saying is that I worry that it's going to be one step forward, two steps back. And I'm not saying that this was an impulsive decision on yours. There's obviously a lot of thought behind it. But unfortunately, it just becomes a weapon that you've handed to the other side. Because
I don't care. Because I want to fight. Good. I'm glad I've handed them a weapon because I want a fight. The fact of the matter is, the College of Policing and the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, have been using this definition since 2014. And nobody's challenged them. Nobody has challenged them. Now, even when we went to court last November, the argument was that my tweets did not reach their standard of hate as set out in the police definition. And that's true, they didn't. However, my point is this: it doesn't matter because it's the standard itself that needs attacking. That standard is no good whatsoever. You cannot present a definition of hate that has those elements in it and then say, don't be like that, don't be antagonistic, don't challenge our ideas. And I'm saying, screw you, I am going to be as antagonistic as hell. I'm going to be all over you, and I'm going to express ill will, ill feeling, because I want you to lose. I want you to lose, College of Policing, and I want your TRAs to lose. I don't have good feelings towards them. I want them to lose. I do. I want women to win, and I want Fair Cop to win, and I want Graham Linehan to win, and I want them to lose. Well, I'm sorry, but I can't hold those feelings according to the College of Police because they fit the definition of hate. Now, what the police have done, they've taken a very real concept of hate, and I would say a sensible definition of hate would be something like a degree of volatile animosity, which is so intense that if left unchecked, it is likely to escalate into criminality. Now, that is a definition of hate that I could buy into. And I think all of us could buy into that, because that's the kind of hate that led Stephen Lawrence to be murdered. And we know this because a bunch of white lads had been chatting away indoors about how they would love to stab a black guy, kill a black guy. That kind of hate, we're totally against. The kind of hate that Anders Breivik in Norway demonstrated before he went and shot up all those Cub Scouts on the island. That kind of hate is a volatile hostility which needed intervention in order to prevent it escalating into an atrocity. The trouble is, whilst the police are so busy picking us up for our ill will, our unfriendliness, and our dislike, it allows them to tick a bunch of McPherson boxes whilst actually not addressing what McPherson told them to address in the first place. So I am a bit of a stormtrooper, and
please don't say things like that, Harry.
Well, okay, well,
because some people will think Star Wars, but a lot of people will think Nazis.
Well, that's just you, Greg. You have to get bloody Nazis into everything, don't you? Eh?
Oh God!
Okay. What am I? Yeah, what am I? I'm oh gosh, I am the forward party landing, storming the beaches on D-Day. That's what I am. And the fact of the matter is, we're having this debate about what I'm saying yes to, and we've not been having that debate for the past 6 years, whilst the police have been busy collecting people on their list of hate, which now tops over 200,000. Well,
but Harry, again, but are people really speaking about this, or are they speaking about you saying say yes to hate?
Okay, there's two. Well, you talk as though people is one group. You've got journalists and MPs who entirely get it, and then you've got a Twitterati and a bunch of academics who don't get it. My interest is only with changing the law. I don't have any other interest at all. So I would be delighted if the Supreme Court were to say, Mr. Miller, you're the fellow who tweeted "Say Yes to Hate." But it gives me the opportunity to discuss what what hate actually is, according to the College of Policing.
Okay.
So I don't regret it at all. I don't regret it in the slightest. I think sometimes it needs very bold, audacious moves to get people's minds to focus. So I've never been interested in making friends. I've got very loyal and very good friends. I've no interest at all in getting plaudits from the masses at all.
But you do represent Fair Cop, and I do think we're all stronger together, you know. But there are groups that, as you know, the way that, for instance, the LGB Alliance are smeared without any evidence and without any ever fucking talking to them or giving them a right to reply. It's the most disgraceful thing I've ever seen. The LGB Alliance are called a hate group. They're told that they are associated with the Heritage Foundation and all this sort of stuff, you know. B and Kate, part of their setup is that they completely disagree with the Heritage Foundation, but none of that matters. You're one group in one of many, and we've all got the same aims, which is to push back against this appalling war on women that the Western world, privileged, left-wing, middle-class people are waging on women. That was basically my point, is just that, you know, when you say I'm not here to make friends and so on, you, I think, are involved in one of the most important aspects of this fight, which is Stonewall's ideological capture of the police force, you know. But there's other people who are involved in what the Tavistock have been doing to children. You know, they're involved in safeguarding being destroyed by people like Amy Challoner, who was at Stonewall for a few years, you know. And do you ever worry that your approach might kind of set back some of these other causes?
No, because I don't think that we're primarily a gender critical organisation. I think we are primarily.
Harry lost connection there, but I think this is such an interesting subject that I'd like to speak to him more about it. So I'm going to divide this into two parts. So please join me very soon for the second part. Thank you. Bye.